The Discovery of Penicillin. In the winter of 1928, a tired scientist named Alexander Fleming returned to his London laboratory after a short holiday. His workspace was famously messy. Stacks of Petri dishes crowded every surface, papers lay in uneven piles, and half-finished experiments filled the shelves. Fleming wasn't the sort of man who tried to control every variable. He believed that sometimes nature revealed things when you simply watched closely enough. His colleagues joked that only he truly understood the system behind his chaos. Before leaving for his break, Fleming had been studying a dangerous bacterium called Staphylococcus. He had been growing several cultures, examining how they behaved, how they spread, and how they resisted the harsh chemical treatments available at the time. He hadn't bothered to tidy his desk before his holiday. The plates sat there, exposed to drafts of air, curious dust, and whatever else floated around the old lab. When he finally returned, he began sorting through the dishes, expecting nothing unusual. But then he paused. On one plate, something looked wrong, or rather, different. There was a small patch where the creamy bacterial growth had vanished entirely, leaving a clean circular zone around a strange, fuzzy spot of greenish mold. It was as though something invisible had carved a hole straight through the sea of bacteria. At first, he assumed it was contamination, the usual enemy of a microbiologist. But Fleming was not the type to ignore something odd. He leaned closer, then closer still. The mold wasn't spreading randomly. It looked purposeful, as though it pushed back the bacteria in a perfect ring. The effect was too neat to be accidental. Curiosity took over. Fleming cut a small section of the mold and transferred it to fresh plates. He tested it against different bacteria, and the pattern repeated. The mold released a substance so powerful that it cleared bacterial growth wherever it touched. The invisible chemical diffused outward like a protective halo. He had stumbled onto a natural enemy of deadly microbes. He named the substance penicillin, after the penicillium mold from which it came. At this stage, the discovery was more of a spark than a fire. Fleming could see what penicillin could do, but he couldn't separate it, concentrate it, or turn it into a medicine ready for patients. The substance broke down too quickly, lost strength, and could only be produced in tiny amounts. Fleming wrote about it, demonstrated its effects, and hoped someone else might see what he saw, a hint of something revolutionary. But the world, busy with its own problems, barely noticed. His 1929 paper passed quietly through scientific journals. Laboratories admired the idea, but few tried to build on it. Fleming moved on to other work, always believing that penicillin had great promise, but uncertain if anyone would ever unlock it. More than a decade later, far from Fleming's messy bench, two researchers, Howard Florey and Ernst Chain, stumbled on his old paper. Unlike Fleming, they had the chemical tools and the determination to chase the discovery properly. They grew the mold in strange containers, bedpans, milk jars, whatever they could find. They squeezed out every drop of liquid, trying to purify the precious substance. It was exhausting work. Producing even a few milligrams took days. Their first test was on mice infected with deadly bacteria. The mice given penicillin survived. The ones that received none died overnight. The room fell silent. They realized they were holding the world's first true antibiotic, a medicine that could kill bacteria inside the body without harming the patient. World War II turned their discovery from a scientific curiosity into an urgent necessity. Soldiers were dying not just from bullets, but from infection. Penicillin changed that. Factories in the United States began producing it on a scale never imagined. By 1944, penicillin was saving countless lives on the battlefield and in hospitals. Fleming, who had once stared at a strange mold spot with mild annoyance, suddenly found himself hailed as a hero. But he always insisted that the discovery belonged equally to chance, and to the simple act of paying attention to something others might have thrown away. And it all began with one cluttered lab bench, a wandering speck of mold, and a curious scientist willing to lean in instead of look away.